Hello there, I'm Andrew Orr and I'm really involved and passionate about getting members of the Church of Ireland to think about caring for the world which we've been given by God.
And I'm Lydia Monds from the Bishop's Appeal, which is the Church of Ireland's World Aid and Development Programme.
We've been given a big task to care for God's creation, and if we don't, our world is in serious trouble. I'm talking to you at the end of one of the hottest summers ever recorded in Ireland, and indeed right across the globe. So we can see that climate change is a reality, not just in the future, but now. And indeed it's affecting people right across the developing world already.
We cannot wait any longer. We need to make changes in every aspect of our lives, in our practices, in our production, in our pollution, and in our consumption. This is not a calling for an enthusiastic few. This is a work for everyone, and when everyone plays their part, we can create a shift in the current harmful trends.
We have, on a spiritual level, a duty of stewardship to care for the creation that God has given us. But there's more to it than that. The scripture tells us again and again that we're not separate from God's creation, we're part of it. At the beginning of the Bible, we can see that God makes the human being out of the soil. There's a pun or a joke there. Indeed, this word for soil in Hebrew is Adamah, and God makes the human being Adam out of the Adamah, the soil. So you can see that the scripture writer really wants us to understand that we're part of God's creation, that we're dependent on it, and that we're completely related to all the other animals and plants that are growing on this earth. And it's our job to take care of that and not to spoil it.
When we realise that as humans we are created for relationship with God, with others, and with all of creation, we realise that we live our fullest lives when we tend to those relationships. We flourish when creation flourishes. But we've distorted this, believing that trampling on God's earth, extracting from it, depleting it, deforesting it, is in our best interest. And for what? For disposable coffee cups that give us greater convenience but end up in landfills, for single-use plastics that end up in our oceans? When we disconnect and don't think about the consequences of our choices and our actions, we miss out. But not just us, our children and our children's children reap the consequences of our decisions. So how do we reconnect?
Some years ago, the Anglican Communion came up with the 5 marks of mission. That's the 5 core tasks of the Church. The 5th one was to strive to safeguard the integrity of creation and to sustain and renew the life of the earth. So what does that mean in practice? Well, the General Synod's Environmental Charter gives us some key areas to work on in our parishes. First of all, reducing energy use and waste. Does your church continue to use single-use plastics, disposable cutlery, disposable cups? Have you looked, for example, at your old church boiler? Could it be replaced with a more energy efficient one? Secondly, looking at increasing awareness in our own area. Here in Carlow, where I am, the church has been very proactive about looking after its grounds. They have new trees, they have a bug hotel, they look after the bees. Some parishes have even put beehives into their church grounds. The third mark is about our own homes. How do we protect the environment in our own homes? We know about recycling, but we also need to think again about the use of plastics in our homes. Do you know that 1/3 of the food we buy is thrown straight into the bin? Think carefully about what we're buying and about where it comes from. Try and buy local, and if you can, from a farmer's market, to support your local food producers.
The 4th area of action is support for poor communities around the world who are the most affected by climate change, but who have done the least to contribute to it. Bishop's Appeal, Christian Aid, Tear Fund and other agencies are working alongside these communities to help them build resilience against rising sea levels, against flooding, and to help them to adapt to prolonged drought and to the failure of traditional crops. By supporting these agencies, you are supporting people to adapt and to survive. But giving should not be our only response. It should be combined with speaking out, with advocating for less single-use plastics, for example. When politicians call to our doors looking for our votes, we should be asking them about public transport, about renewable energies, and about how we can reduce our waste collectively.
Remember the slogan, think globally, but act locally. This is God's world which He has given us. Let's work together to safeguard it for the future.